Perfection's a weird thing. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of there's like at least one main aspect that we missed about it, and it doesn't really. There's no real like tight definition of what is perfect. Now, most people have agreed on a rough idea of what is perfect, and I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons why the ideology of religion came around, right? Like Christianity, Muslim, and Jewish, mainly those three. They center around a person who lived the perfect life that we should follow. That's essentially what it really diagnosed to people, because people suck at being people, right? And it has this interesting, I don't know. There's an interesting counter argument to it. Now, keep in mind, I am a religious person. Like I'm a Christian. I believe in Christianity's like things. Like I do believe that there is somebody there. Like don't fuck with them. But it's this idea of like perfection through religion, which I find really interesting. But I also find it through the more like, I guess I'll label it as scientific, but I mean in like more of like a practical way, and a more of like in more of a way that conveys to other people that okay, that person's good. Because when they convey that other person that yeah, you're a good person, they'll already label you as perfect. It's really because like it's because of how loose this definition of perfect is, yet how tight the expectations are. It's just, I don't know. But I'm going to go into a deep conversation about perfection, so that way we both maybe could get a better and deeper understanding of what actually perfection is, and rather how we can go for it in our own ways compared to trying to be perfect at everything, which is what encompasses religion, essentially. But it also, is it really everything, or is it social, right? Because, I have to think about this for a moment, because like I didn't even think about this before the video started. Like, religion is like the main person. Like, for example, for Christians it's Jesus, for Muslims it's Allah, for Jewish it's like God, but they can't actually like say it in their religion, which I find really interesting. But it's that they all center around this idea of being perfect for other people in social situations, right? And they also center around ideas of, like, it's really just this big encompassing thing of being perfect for other people, right? Like, if I could summarize the Bible in 5 words, that's the words I'd summarize it as, in my opinion. Obviously, a lot of people have other opinions, so be it. That's a good thing, because I've talked about this before, kind of didn't really touch on it, but having different opinions is really, really good, especially for this idea of perfection, because otherwise it doesn't allow me to talk about what I'm talking about today. If people didn't have different opinions on how perfection works, we would all be one ideological triangle, right? It'd be literally just a global social system, which oddly enough I think the government wants, but I'm not going to go into that. Because, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can't have this guy talking. This is my second video that I'm recording, and my throat is dry. But I'm going to have this problem too. But I'm talking to myself now. But going back to this idea of perfection is that we as people try to perfect ourselves in ways where it would gain other people's approval. Does that make sense? Because you can gain all of your own self-approval, but the social approval from perfection is like the idealistic thing that people have set up, right? Now, even then, that's also a form of perfect. So is that really something that we should strive for, is another really good question to ask yourself, right? For example, like, I have so much, I could like go into this for like an hour, but I'm just so unorganized about this, so I apologize. But I think I'll start actually by explaining the one point that I had that I'd written down in my notebook about perfection. It was just one bullet. And it's timeline. Now, the reason why I bring up timeline, it doesn't make much sense at first, but when you really think about it, as a timeline, does perfect mean as our past record, or does perfect mean in the present, or does it mean in the future? Now, because people aren't no one's perfect in the past. We always find a way, which is probably negative thinking, which I talked about recently too, because I was just this second video, blah, blah, blah. But so you get to the point of, okay, yeah, so I did this, and this wrong in my past because I am not exactly good at this, and this, which now is leading into your present why. That's another point too, is that if you take these negative beliefs about yourself because of actions you did in the past, and you end up applying that to the present by default because you're thinking about it in the present. So if you think there's something wrong with you in the past, and then I keep saying like, anyways, when you go to present, you then start to understand that, oh, wait a second, there is actually change between how I was 3 years ago compared to right now. And a personal thing that really annoys me is when people, I mean, I really shouldn't care about this because it's not something important, but I guess what used to annoy me is when people would say, oh, you did X action 5 years ago. It's like, so what? Right? That it doesn't matter right now. Okay? Maybe if it's like Bill Cosby type crime, then okay, yeah, then maybe that matters. But if it's something like small or stupid that like you did as a personal mistake, like if it's a big personal mistake, but it's nothing that would like realistically get anyone else in trouble or you in trouble, it's just like, really? It's like, yeah, okay, I made that mistake, but like, what's the point of bringing it up, right? From my perspective, I can clearly see when someone's trying to downplay another person for social validation, and it clicks. I'm like, yep, that person's doing that, whatever. And it's really tough for me to say this, but a lot of people in my life right now do that, and I'm trying to stray away from that, and it's just really, that, like, a lot of successful people talk about that, like, shift of where you become more lonely when you're doing it, and I'm experiencing that right now, 100%. But I'm grateful for that because at least it gives me a guidance to knowing that, okay, this is the right path to take. It'll take a lot of time, it'll take a lot of effort, but you'll get through it. Anyways, going back to perfection, it's this really, it's a really interesting idea because how open the question actually is, despite the actual wording and like the actual concept of it being so tightly knitted. So, going back to timeline, now that was the past that we just covered. The present, being perfect in the present, I think, is what a lot of, specifically self-improvement people focus on, and a lot of successful people think on too, because successful people self-improve, like, every day. That's just how this world has worked. I mean, you can look around, like, this should be self-evident, right? What am I hearing? Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm hearing some weird stuff. Oh, it's okay. Never mind. It's literally just a trash can truck, but I kept hearing it bump into things, or it sounded like it was bumping into things, and I was like, "What is this?" But anyways, going back to perfection here, it's that it's like you get these people and you see that they try to improve it by, okay, maybe they do this, maybe they sound like this, or they sound like that, or they go, whoa, and like, you know what I mean? Like just simple things like that, or even more complex things like, okay, in my relationship, I shouldn't take my woman's word literally. I should take it as more of a emotional feeling that they have in the present moment. Okay. That, by the way, I got from, that's a bit personal on my point, so apologies, but it's really cool, because was that truck moving forward? Wait a second. Sorry, I'm just totally out of it. Let me drink some coffee. Might get me back here. Yep. And anyways, this idea of perfecting in the present, it's these you get this cohort of people which are like, okay, yeah, do this, do this, do this. You get the Andrew Tates, right? Which, okay, fair enough. Like, they want to do that, perfectly fine. Like, I participate in a bit of it too. Like, I'll be honest with you. Now, obviously, the first thing that a lot of brain dead people get to is that, oh, wait, you're going to say this about this? It's like, no, I mean, like, when I say that, you should understand that I mean, okay, I take certain actions like a lot of exercise, or I do meditation, or I do other things like that, which bring this development, which is self-improvement essentially, and it allows you to, I don't know, like the idea of becoming a better person for other people is just what the religion, like what religion's based on, and it's a really, like, it's a really inspiring thing, obviously. Otherwise it wouldn't be a religion. So, which I always find that really interesting. So, that's my point on that. And then the future. Now we're going to the future. It's really, that's just basically, that's reflecting. That's the definition of reflecting is becoming perfect in the future. That's all it is. So, okay, becoming perfect in the future for what? That's the first qualification you have to understand, that you can't just be perfect in everything, because we don't have enough time on this planet to be perfect at everything. Pick a skill and go for it and just drive it home. Or pick like 2 skills, right? Because like, okay, I'm 17 right now. If I master this skill by the time I'm 27, okay, now I can go somewhere else and apply a different skill and maybe learn, I don't know. I don't want to be like kind of like sound like an NPC and be like, oh yeah, jujitsu, but like maybe some sort of like fighting style, right? You master some sort of fighting style. Okay, cool. Now you know how to gain wealth and kick someone's ass. Perfect. So it's just like you gain that idea of self-value, and then you become more of a perfect person. But it's, I guess the best way to think about it, if you're wanting to actually improve, but you have that like that self-limiting belief that like, oh, I can't do it because I can't be perfect. It's not the idea about being perfect. It's the idea about being perfect in the select things that you want to do for the rest of your life. Now it's hard. It's a lot harder to actually try to figure this out, especially at a young age like mine. Like I don't expect a bunch of 17-year-olds like running around trying to get better. Like that's just not how society works. If that's how society works, we'd all be like psychotically strong and smart, which may be beneficial, may not be. Because like I feel like you get a lot of Terminators really easily in that case, because one person thinks negative infects like 10 people, and then all of a sudden you get like an army, and all of a sudden what seems like a mob of protesters is now a mob of Terminators, which has kind of actually happened in this modern society, because going to the gym has become such a popular thing, right? I go to the gym. Like I'm kind of small, so I want to actually build muscle, but that's a whole different thing. So I go to the gym, and a lot of people actually go to the gym now, because at least my generation, because it's become this like cultural like, oh, you go to the gym, you're fucking cool, let me hang out with you, let me do this thing with you. And that is where you get to understand that generational shift of ideas. And then you get like especially in America, keep in mind I'm an American, so I've seen like the history in the past like 4 or 5 years. You get like George Floyd riots, for example, right? You get these riots where people, I mean, you can literally see it on live television everywhere, like people are breaking in, people are doing, and that is basically what happens when you get a bunch of people getting stronger, but their brains are getting dumber, or their brains are just not, like, they're not thinking about what they're just being a literal monkey and just like, oh, throw that thing. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, there's a reason why, especially like the present people, like self-improved people, talk about authority and responsibility, which I'm literally quoting from Andrew Tate, whatever. But it's because that without that responsibility on your part, the authority is the power, right? And then I'm meaning this in physical strength right here. And the responsibility is your mind being able to tell you, okay, I can't go around and like do this because I can literally kill people. But you get a whole cohort of idiots who say, it's okay to kill people, it's okay to do this, because no one's going to punish us or whatever, and then you go do it, you just become dumber. Because it's like, okay, yeah, you can do it. Like, I'm home alone right now. I could leave my house and never come back. But, okay, how am I going to get paid? How am I going to eat? How am I going to sleep? What's like, there's too many questions for me to actually physically do it without having to really dumb down the quality of my life. And I feel like these people are doing the same thing too. They're just dumbing down the quality of their life because they could be doing such better things. Like maybe if they're really for these people, right? For the writers, whatever. Go and talk about it and try to get people to understand your point. Then maybe instead you can get a cohort of people who are protesting about their point instead of trying to break into people's stores and kill people, right? It's not that hard to grasp that. At least I don't think. But that's my point, right? Is that future perfection is just reflecting on the present or sometimes the past too. But it's kind of harder to do it in the past without having your past reflect your present, and then you get the idea, right? So, and then that comes back to the cycle of negativity, which I brought up earlier about reflecting and how it can affect you in the present and give you small limiting beliefs. Now we can come back though to this idea of perfection being so malleable and so not limited to change, because perfection, not like maybe I guess a more personal example is my grandma, who probably saw perfection within being a not provider, but being like supportive of her family, right, as a mother. Okay, and obviously as a grandmother, but so you get these ideas, right, and you see yourself as, this is the perfect version of me that I wish to cultivate and I want to spread to other people. That is how different people think, and that is how individuals value themselves. And that's why the title of this video has something to do with the realization that you are already perfect in the things that you're doing, as long as you're actually putting effort into changing so that way you can benefit other people. So that's the main point I want to talk about with being perfect towards other people to gain that social benefit, to maybe get into that little higher echelon that you desire to be. And whatever thing it is. It doesn't matter if it's gambling or if it's trying to win a game or if it's trying to become the best person at calisthenics. It's if you at least listen and gain the idea of, oh yeah, that thing's good, let me do that so I can become this. And there you go. And now maybe like how to put it? Because there are a lot of people who think this, but who probably thought about this with like a negative habit, or like what we would deem as a negative habit, right? Or like, I guess, I don't know. Whatever you define we as, just put that definition in there, and if you apply to it, then you're a part of we, right? So, my fear is that people apply this in a negative context and then say, oh yeah, but I want to become good at this, so I'm going to just keep doing this. But you have to also understand the consequences, because the consequences are really the thing that drives whatever purpose you have home. If the consequence of me recording this video is that in the future someone will really like this idea and reach out to me and I gain more wealth, for starters, and I gain more social connections and I gain more other things, okay, then I'll do it. But if it's something like gambling where, okay, the future consequence is I spent a lot of money, maybe I do win, right? Let's say you win. Let's say you win big, right? I win big, but then I become psychologically trapped in this cycle of where, okay, now I want to win big, I go gambling, I lose money, I come home. Because even when you win big, the house always wins. Like, this is something that a lot of people know now. And if you're a gambler, I recommend you do not. Is that they all go home. Like, they all go home, they're broke, house wins all the money. The guy who's running the gambling thing, he's the one winning the gamble. Because he's taking the long-term gamble and saying, okay, all of these idiots who are infected with this idea that they can win something based off of pure luck will come to me and hope that they can win the money, when obviously they all lose, they go home broke, and I become rich because they literally just handed me their money. That is a gambling business. You're just handing them your money. But in the gambling owner's eyes, that's his form of perfection. It's evil, yes. Most people, it's evil. But you know what? That motherfucker is siphoning your money like you're a clown on Wall Street trying to give out the stocks. That's what you're doing. That's what you look like. So, don't gamble. That's my rant. But I'll make one last point on perfection. Perfection is this capability of being able to carry your desires into habits, into actions, into preferences towards the person or the being you already want to become. And now, you have to have your individual identity attached to that, so that way you can actually become a different person. Because, okay, for example, there's a guy named Bedros Keuilian, who I think is a really cool dude. He actually has a channel. You can go literally search up BEDROS, BEDROS. Search. You'll find him. Like, literally that simple. But, okay, so, and then you have to ask yourself, what characteristics make me like him? And then what I do is I put that into the profile of what perfection is. I put that into that profile, and I said, okay, what do I take from Chris Williamson that I like? Put that up there. What do I take from, I don't know, like maybe Magnus Carlsen and put it up there, right? Because a lot of these people that are famous, a lot of people go, oh, he's skilled, oh, he's perfect, oh, he's lucky. They do these few things, but they don't actually understand, okay, you can become that person too. You just have to figure out what characteristics of them make you think they're perfect, put them in your perfection category up here, and then climb yourself up using the habits and rituals that you wish to perform to become this form of perfection that you desire. Because at the end of the day, when you're on your hospital bed and you're dying of pneumonia or whatever the hell you get, because at least if you're taking anything, if you're living an American average diet, which most likely you aren't, and good for you, but if you are and you're also like popping Xanax every day, like you're literally gonna die in a hospital bed because you're gonna get some new form of disease that doesn't even exist yet. It's like, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I'll go controversial. What the hell? When China released COVID, essentially, that's essentially what it did, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, it's like they're able to create a new fucking disease. You think that America pharma companies can't do the same thing? We're both on the number one world power. Like, they're both, like, here. And they're just, like, doing this all the time, obviously. So it's like, what's really going to stop them? You know? Whole different side tangent, but you get the idea, right? You go, okay, if you take the example I mentioned earlier, okay, they think this perfect, that thing that perfect, and then they do this, and then they do that, and then, yeah. So, World War III's already begun. And that's my hot take for the day. You can do whatever you want with that. But, anyways. That's my talk about perfection, and I'm glad you stuck around to the end. So, if you enjoyed my talk about how perfection can be viewed in your own way, and how it's actually not, it shouldn't be determined by societal standards, but rather what you think is perfect, put that into your identity, and then climb towards that thing. Now, building off of that, that should be, I believe, the number one goal that everyone should have, is instead of trying to find a purpose, try to find this perfection in the forms of things that you want to do, and to be able to, now I mean this in a more not hedonistic way. So like things that you want to do that give you fulfillment. Put that as the caveat, and then add these things together, right? It's fucking math class, dude. Just add the things together, put them up into this little perfection sphere that you desire to be, and then build a ladder. You literally build a ladder, put it up to the circle, and start climbing. That simple. And as always, we're here to help you help them. Bye-bye.